Hi, my name's Heather Isveron, and I am the Stratcom Director for CHDS. And I would like to tell you a little bit about the Center for Homeland Defense and Security. In case you haven't heard of us, we have been in existence since 2002. We were the first master's program in the country. And the center was created to create a cadre of critical thinkers in Homeland Security. And we have a very broad definition of what that is. So we're talking emergency management, law enforcement, fire, utilities, transportation, public health, you name it. And if you are in a local, state, federal, tribal, territorial, or relevant private sector organization, we have some programs that we're going to talk about today that can help you do your job better and think about the multiple threats that we all face here in this country. We're excited to have you aboard, and I would like to introduce our program leads this morning. First, we have Cynthia Reynaud, who leads our Emergence program. And we have Chris Bellavita, who is leading our master's program, and Sarah Kay, who directs our executive leaders program. Welcome, program leads. So I like to say that we have something for everybody in your career. So if you're an agency that is looking for attracting and retaining your talent, providing them with graduate education opportunities is a great way to build your leadership. And many agencies like FDNY use this as a succession planning tool. So today we're going to talk about Emergence, the Masters, and Executive Leaders Program. These are offered at no cost if you are a local, state, tribal, territorial, or federal DHS entity or Title 32 National Guard. So for all other federal agencies, there is a cost share with travel and lodging, and as well as the private sector. We can't, unfortunately, allow the private sector in our master's program at this point, but hopefully in the future. All right, with that, I'll turn it over to Cynthia Reynaud to talk about Emergence.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I hope everybody had a good, restful weekend. And thank you for taking the time to be with us here this morning. I've been scrolling through some of the names and the organizations that you're associated with, and what a great broad group that's here on the call today. I see somebody from a mayor's office, I see FEMA, I see police departments, great group. For me, I've been with the center now leading Emergence since July. And before that, I spent 30 years in law enforcement. And one of my positions was as academy director. So I understand the training environment and what a lot of you on this call are looking at and looking for when you're offering training opportunities out to the people in your organization. And CHDS really provides a complete portfolio of that, as you'll hear about on this call. I'm going to talk about the program that I lead, which is called Emergence. And out of the programs in the center, Emergence, Executive Leaders, and Masters, Emergence is probably the one that you see the title and you kind of scratch your head and think, oh, what is that about? I mean, we know what an Executive Leaders program is, and we know what Masters curriculum is. The Emergence program is unique. And to be honest, I've not seen anything like it offered in any other venue. Emergence is for people in the first half of their career. And it's for those people in your organization that are maybe already in first or second line leadership positions. Those people that you know are going to progress in leadership in the organization, both formally through rank and also perhaps just through the personal authority that they hold in the organization. And it's for the people that you know are going to drive the future mission of your organization. And so then the question is, well, why would you send them to us? Emergence is about a 6-month program, and it is built and composed of 2 distance learning sessions. And after each distance learning session, there is a 1-week in residence session here at CHDS on the Naval Postgraduate School campus. And what we do in that 6 months is we take those participants that you give us and we work with them on expanding their critical thinking skills, on change at every level, change in themselves, change in how they think, and the change that they bring back to your organization. One of the many great things about Emergence is that while the student gets something out of the program, your organization gets a tangible return. The Emergence program is benchmarked on a change initiative project, which is really the capstone deliverable of the course. And so your organizational member will come to us with something in your organization that they want to make better. Maybe a problem they want to solve, an issue that they want to address, but a positive change in your organization. And they come in with that thought in mind, and we then work with them on problem identification before jumping to problem solution. We have them work on root cause analysis, research to support their claims. And we really dive in with them around this specific thing in your organization. And through the course of Emergence, what they leave with is a solution, a project, an idea that is implementable and doable from where they sit in the organization and what their leadership can support them in doing. So that's the tangible that you get back for sending us your people. And then what they get out of it, along with the educational component, which Emergence is about 3 to 5 hours of graduate level work per week. That's what the students need to put in. And then they leave here as better critical thinkers, and they leave here with a network. They leave here with a professional network that is unparalleled, that they can't get anywhere else due to the multidisciplinary nature of the classroom that Heather started the call with. Police, fire, emergency managers, policy writers, intel analysts, public health, private sector from all across the nation and from state, local, federal, tribal, territorial. And it's diving into and engaging with that network that they continue long after they leave the Emergence classroom. You can pop online to the CHDS website and look at some testimonials from past students. We have a few videos up, and you can also see examples of the change initiatives and what the organizations got out of sending them to us. So that is the Emergence program, and I will be on this call later for any questions. Thank you, Heather.
And not only do you have access to the specific cohort and the program that you attend, you have access to the thousands of alumni that came before you from all our programs. So you're part of the CHDS family, and you're also going to have access to all the graduates after. So it's a humongous network. It's really makes the difference when seconds count and you need a no joke contact, somebody who really knows what's going on. Having access to our alumni, it just is an incredible way to, I believe, secure our country. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Chris Bellavita, who leads our master's program. And Chris, tell us about the program, how long you've been with it, and what difference does it make anyway?
Thanks, Heather. I've been with the master's program since 2003, and it's difficult to, in the 5 minutes that I have, to accurately describe the master's program. So this is just a big picture view with the recognition that there's a description of the master's program along with information about all the courses online. And I think Kristen, if he has not already done so, will put a link to that part of our website. It is a rigorous master's program, and rigorous is a synonym for it's a lot of work. But it is about 16 to 20 hours a week if you're in the program, basically your weekends, depending on how you allocate that for the master's program. And we are looking for the 32 best people in the country who apply to our program in the May 1st deadline and the December 1st deadline as well. It's an 18-month program. Once you're accepted into the program, there's a 2-month online start where it's kind of like spring training in baseball, where we help you to remember the academic skills that you already have but may not have used for a while. Our program is for full-time employees, as others, as Heather, Cynthia have said, state, local, federal, tribal, territorial. We have 7 in-residence sessions And then there's a distance learning period. We do 2 weeks in class each quarter, 2 weeks in Monterey. And then the rest of the time is spent doing distance learning. The eligibility requirements are you have to be employed by government. The same caveats about the private sector that Heather indicated in the beginning apply. If you are a non-DHS federal employee, your agency is responsible for the costs of the program. Otherwise, Heather said it's a no cost to you. It is a very expensive program, but the program costs that you have are in your time. Where are you going to get 16, 20 hours a week from if you have a busy life and a life outside of work as well? But people do manage to get that. Have to have an undergraduate degree from an accredited university, and we look for a 3.0 GPA in your undergraduate work. If you have less than a 3.0 and you have some significant experiences or you've outgrown your GPA, your undergraduate GPA, we'll work with you. I flunked out of college my first year, so I have a lot of empathy for people who have, everybody was in their 20s once and then kind of move beyond that. The structure of the program is organized around the notion of the threats and the opportunities that we have to make the country safer are always changing. Our curriculum is changing in response to that as well. We make a distinction between training and education. One trains for the known, but you educate for the unknown. And we are an education program. We don't really know what the world is going to look like, the Homeland Security world is going to look like once you graduate. So we try to provide you with the tools, the processes, the attitudes of mind that allow you to do what needs to be done to be effective in your part of the Homeland Security enterprise. As Heather and Cynthia have already mentioned, we focus on critical thinking, on creative thinking, and on collaboration. While we are an academic program and we are interested deeply in the nature of the ideas that inform Homeland Security, we also are practical in the sense of the ideas that you come up with. We are also looking for ways that you will implement those ideas when you get back to work. The website, again, has the application materials and the details. What we look for in our applicants are somebody who's curious, somebody who wants to use what they want to learn, people who have something to contribute to the expansion, to the understanding of Homeland Security, and who are effective communicators and effective thinkers. We look to develop a cohort of 32 people that consists of diverse disciplines and also diverse experiences. What do you get out of the program? As an individual, you turn the idea of being a lifelong learner into more than just jargon. You actually do become a lifelong learner. And as Heather said, it's a part of the network that you are part of as well, that you get. You benefit the wider environment. And when we do this correctly, you are also benefiting not just your agency, but the nation, and making the world better. And my time is up right there, Heather.
Well, we could go on, and we will, because we're going to have a lot of questions. But I do want to say with the master's program, the cost share is your time away from the job. So we'll cover everything else, thankfully, from FEMA. But we would also like to just make sure that people understand the time away is significant. And we do a lot to help you get through this program. If you can get through the application process, you can get through the program. And it's meant to be arduous. So you have 5 essays, you have your resume, you have your transcripts. And by the way, I saw a question, 40% of our applicants have advanced degrees already. Some have double masters, some have PhDs. What they want is, they want the CHDS experience, the collaboration, the critical thinking skills, the challenge is really important. So I would like to just take a moment and make sure that everybody understands how rewarding it is as well. So when you come up against a job or a promotion, having a degree from the Naval Postgraduate School does make the difference. And we do really take it seriously. And the people that come through our programs, they're typically type A, 80 hours a week, really high speed. They're passionate. They may want to challenge beyond what they've been doing in their job. And they really want to go for something different. And this degree does make the difference in your career. So we're excited to have you here today. Anything I missed, Chris, on that part of it? Anything?
No, not for a broad overview, Heather.
Okay, great. All right, Sarah Kay, this is for the Executive Leaders Program. Can you tell us a bit about that?
I sure can. Thank you, Heather, and hi, everyone. It's great to see so many interested folks that are in the Homeland Security enterprise interested in our programs. I am happy to tell you about the Executive Leaders Program. I've been with the program, I've been leading it since 2020. However, it has existed since 2006, so I'm the second director of the program. In ELP, so we educate participants that are on the other end of the spectrum from what Cynthia with Emergence was talking about. So in our ELP cohorts are senior executives in the Homeland Security enterprise. So think about at the federal level, typically SES or GS-15. We can also have appointees. At the local level or state level, think the chiefs or directors of those Homeland Security related agencies. So your public health directors, your emergency management directors, your police and fire chiefs, heads of your utility organizations. At the private sector level, so like Emergence, we are able to have 2 private sector students in each of our cohorts. And those students typically come from the top of the security or Homeland Security related functions for your company. We run 2 cohorts a year of 32 students. So it's really important to us when we're building our cohorts to make sure that we have a really solid mix of disciplines and also regional representation. So we're looking for very different perspectives in the room. We run for each cohort, we have 4 in-residence sessions in Monterey that are spanned out about a year. We are a little different from Emergence and Masters in that we don't at this time have a significant virtual component to ELP. That might change a little bit in the future, but currently we are primarily just in residence. And then of course, there is reading. So we are in residence, but we expect students to come prepared with all of the reading done for our assigned books, but also for whatever our guest speakers have asked folks to prep with. And that is really our model. We bring expert guest speakers in. They talk about current and emerging issues in the Homeland Security enterprise. And there's a very heavy focus on bringing different perspectives together. That's why we're so sort of preoccupied with bringing a lot of different jurisdictional, regional, and disciplines together. Because the idea is that we want everyone in the program to learn how the panoply of disciplines that contribute to the Homeland Security enterprise are facing these very common challenges and opportunities that face the enterprise. So our expectation for students is that they are going to have an influence on the strategy and policymaking in their organizations, because what we want to do is when our students leave ELP and throughout the program, we want them to be able to make even better informed contributions at that strategic and policy level. These are folks who are guiding the Homeland Security enterprise at various levels of government. We also do have our students contribute to the Homeland Security enterprise discourse. So we don't do a thesis and we don't have a project that folks work on like an Emergence, but what we do have is our students write an article for publication. And the focus on that is them discussing a current topic in the Homeland Security enterprise and really getting their perspective on that out in the enterprise. Our program is the same in terms of funding as the other programs, and that means for our 2 private sector participants, they are responsible for travel and lodging, but the costs are taken care of for the rest of participants. Currently, our deadlines for application are a little different than Masters and Emergence, but we are converging those so that in the future they should all be that May 1st and December 1st deadline. That's just a brief overview. Happy to answer any questions folks have. And I just want to thank you all again for your interest and for being here.
Great, thank you, Sarah. So as Sarah and others mentioned, the programs are very competitive. We only have 32 seats and we have a lot of demand for these programs, of course, because they're free or at reduced cost. And so the competition can be great, but you shouldn't worry about that if you don't get in the first or second time. Sometimes it just takes a while to get in because we are looking at the diversity of the classroom and we're trying to make sure that we have multiple jurisdictions, agencies, levels of government, levels of positions represented in our classroom. So please, if you don't get in the first time, feel free to reapply. But when you do reapply, we would like to ask you to review your application. You know, it's usually about 6 months since the last time you applied. So what are the things that you're doing next? And there are a ton of beautiful, amazing training programs around the country. We are not training, we are graduate education. So the focus of each of these programs is on strategy and policy. So as you look at an application for any of these programs, you're going to look at how you think about problems rather than all the things you do every day to solve them. So in the case of the master's program, there are 5 essays, and it's about how you think about problems rather than the doing of them. So how do you identify programs? How do you how do you identify problems? How do you evaluate them? And then how are you a change agent to make things happen in your agency or your region or your state, or if you have any national influence? These are the things that the committees really look at. The tactical operational pieces of your job, this is not the program for you if that's what you're looking for. Really, again, the strategy and policy. What difference does it make at the end of the line? What do you get out of it? Some of you have hit on that. You do get the give back to the agency, which could be the project Cynthia mentioned. In the master's program, it would be our thesis research. And that's something to really think about because there's no end to the problems each of you face in your agencies. And as you look at across the agency, is there some problem that you would like to send one of your folks here to think about? With the deep bench of faculty and expertise that we bring, we can truly partner with you and your agency to help solve some of those issues. And that's a really important thing to think about as you're looking at how you attack all these problems.
Heather, I'll always also point out that it's not just problems. We're always going to have problems. But in addition to that, it's opportunities. What are opportunities that you see in your environment that with some attention and some collaboration, some networking, that one can take advantage of? So we do both.
And Sarah, in your program, you do some writing for publication. Can you talk about that a little more?
Sure. So in our second IR, we assign the writing for publication exercise to our students. We have a self-study. So I know we're here to talk about our programs, but I will just hype up the fact that we have a great self-study program at CHDS that you can find on our website with a lot of really great content. One element of that content is writing an article for publication. So we have our students do that self-study course, and then over the course of that in residence break, write an article for publication. We then as faculty review those articles, and then we do a peer review with the other students in the cohort. And then we encourage our students to publish that article afterwards. And we have some examples of students that have published. And I think Christian put at least one in the chat, although there's so much in the chat, it's probably hard to find. And then we also have had one cohort decide after that in fact, this is our first cohort that did this exercise. They decided to write an article for publication from the entire cohort. So the entire cohort collaborated on an article that was published on the front page of Homeland Security today. So it's a nice opportunity for our students to get their perspectives out and share something, write on something that they're passionate about, and then share their point of view on that for a broader consumption beyond just the cohort.
And we have relationships with all the Homeland Security publications. So this is when we pitch something, it's a no joke pitch, and it usually gets printed. So Police Chief Magazine, Homeland Security Today, Domestic Preparedness Journal, our own journal, the Center for Homeland Defense and Security has its own journal. We also have a publication called Pracademic Affairs. And this all sounds very academic, but we are kind of the junction between what is theory and what is practice. And the whole goal of the founding of the center was to bring those two together. So it's not enough to just have theories, and it's not just enough to have practice. You really need to think more critically about how to engage your agency and these opportunities and issues in real ways, so that when you do implement a strategy and policy, it's not just from a top-down situation. We have the people that are actually at the tip of the spear, if you want to use that analogy, who can implement the strategies and policies that make a difference. And where we see that happen every day is in agency policy, sometimes in legislation, and then making a real difference in helping people do their jobs better. Chris, do you have any examples just offhand of some of the recent work of our graduates?
We have a set of theses that have just been completed, and that's what I'm most familiar with right now. For example, Los Angeles will have World Cup and the Olympics in several years. There is significant homelessness problem in Los Angeles and in Los Angeles County. An individual has just finished his thesis where he looked at ways of mitigating that problem in Los Angeles by combining a variety of options, some based on law enforcement strategies, but the majority of them based on support service strategies and housing strategies. There's housing first strategies, social service strategies. And so what he ended up with is there's not one size fits all for what will help Los Angeles and Los Angeles County during the Olympics and during World Cup. But depending on what the neighborhoods, what the communities are, there is a need to implement different strategies. That was a different idea than he started off his thesis with. It's one of many examples of how people go into a research project, especially practitioners, believing they already know the answer to it. And then when they go into and do the research, it turns out that the problem is more nuanced, as Cynthia said earlier. Start with the solution, start with a better understanding of the problem. And through that, this individual has come up with something that is now being considered by people who can implement that in the city and the county of Los Angeles.
That's so excellent. And that's so representative of the different projects that our students face and research. So Cynthia.
Yeah, if I can jump in for a minute, it's a bit of a discussion course change, but I'm looking at a question that Jade Fessler put in the chat and that Kat Harness put a thumbs up on. And it's basically about how do you balance family life with work life with participation in the master's program. So this is something that everyone would need to consider as they apply for the master's program. And there are great successes. It can absolutely be done. I'm here to personally assure you that you can have a small child and a full career and a family and still get it done, but you have to schedule that ahead of time. As far as accommodations for families, you're housed here on campus at the Del Monte Hotel. And the rooms are fairly large, and it's up to all of you to coordinate whether your family comes, whether at your own expense, maybe you get another room for when they're here. The program is 2 weeks in residence at a time for the sessions that Dr. Bellavita mentioned. When I went through the master's program and my daughter was 7 at the time, I brought her with me for a majority of the cohorts. And so there's a cohort that falls over the summer. There are weekends in between. There are ways that you can mitigate it. But you do have to think about that ahead of time, but it can absolutely be done. And for any of you seriously considering this, that have all of those different parts of your life to balance and weigh out, I'm sure if you want to talk through it with an alumnus who did it, I'm sure that Heather could put you in touch with a bit of a support network if you choose to apply, so that you can think through that and how you're going to balance it all. But it can be done.
The main thing is time management, right? It's being able to juggle, and with the expertise of our alumni and our faculty, there are some smart practices that have been put into place. Getting up early on the weekends to do the work is a popular way of doing it. So there are different smart practices for you and your family. We have instituted a family webinar when you start our master's program, so that you can meet our faculty, your family can meet our staff and faculty, and talk about things that might be of concern, so that going into the program, everybody's on the same page, and it's a real great way to start this adventure together. And some of the more enterprising alumni or students that have gone through the program bring their families at the end of the program. Monterey it doesn't suck to be here. So it's a nice place to graduate and celebrate with your family. Again, the degree is from the Naval Postgraduate School. It reads Master of Arts in Security Studies, Homeland Defense and Security. It is a world recognized degree. It has the highest accreditation by Western Association of Schools and Colleges. And it looks very nice on your wall, I can promise you. And we do have a mentor program for all of our programs. If you are interested in learning more about it from somebody who actually went through it, we can definitely set you up with a mentor. So we really do try, because we know that you're busy and that your agency is needing you. And we just want to make this as seamless as possible. So we actually have faculty that can meet with you off hours, and we know you all have crazy hours, but we also have operations staff that are incredible, and they will do your travel and lodging for you, so you don't have to spend time doing that. And we have been doing this a while, so we really know how to do the logistics, so that will save you some time and concern as you consider one of these programs. All right, do you all see any other questions that we can answer? I see one about the master's program being offered in the National Capital Region as well as Monterey. Chris, would you like to take that one?
Yes, we do have a campus on the East Coast in the National Capital Region. So that's, I think right now that applies to people who are selected for the May in the May deadline, and you will spend some of the time on the East Coast and then some of the time in Monterey on that program. I think there's about three in-residence sessions in Monterey, and the rest of them are on the East Coast.
Excellent. Somebody asked about the difference between the Naval War College and the Naval Postgraduate School. So we are a little bit different than the Naval War College, although there is a Naval War College presence on this campus. The Center for Homeland Defense and Security is for local, state, tribal, territorial, and federal DHS, as well as the private sector. We don't have much of a naval presence unless you're including our Navy participants as well as Coast Guard. But we do have a Naval War College presence on the campus here in Monterey. So it's two totally different organizations, but we're both housed here on the campus. I see another question for the ELP program. As a private sector person, can you tell me more about how the travel and accommodation is addressed?
Sure. So you would book your own, book and pay for your own as a private sector participant. So our staff, as Heather mentioned, try to make the program as easy as possible. And we do have staff that books travel for our government folks. But unfortunately, our private sector at this time is responsible for booking their own travel. However, the staff that works and books our government folks do reserve rooms on campus, assuming that that's where you decide to stay. So they book that for you, or can book that for you, but then the private sector folks are just responsible for paying for that.
Excellent. Great.
There's also a question on there about, do you have to be in a position related to Homeland Security before applying? I'm not sure which program, Kat, you addressed that to, but in the master's program, yes, it helps to be already in a Homeland Security related organization or activity. Now, the definition of Homeland Security is beyond what the traditional sense is in a Homeland Security strategy. We look to work at least in the master's program, at the edges of what not only what Homeland Security is, but what Homeland Security could be. How did homelessness become a Homeland Security problem? Well, it took a while to evolve, and some of our students were at the forefront of making that case, because it does take a lot of time and attention and opportunity costs away from other activities that communities can do. So you may be working, for example, in a state organization that has to do with voting, for example, working with county voting offices. That can be a Homeland Security related activity if you shape it that way, obviously. So again, we're looking for the best people in the country who want to apply, and there's over 300 of you online right now. Make the case to us that you're one of those people.
Yeah, I think a common misperception is that Homeland Security is pertaining to the Department of Homeland Security and the state Homeland Security apparatus or the local. You don't have to have that in your name or title to be a part of our programs, as Chris and others have mentioned. So really, it's up to you to make the case for the criticality of your position in Homeland National Security, if that helps you define it a little wider. So think about those things and how your future contributions to Homeland Security, as well as your previous contributions at the strategy policy level, are influencing what you want to do with your career. And it's not so much about just you and your career. It's really, what are you going to bring to our classroom that's going to enhance the knowledge of the others seated at the table? When you sit at our table, you're going to be representing your agency at the strategy and policy level. I see some ATF people. I'd love to see you in Emergence and the executive program. What's happening in the strategy policy level for ATF that you can bring that will help you do your job better? And what can we learn about the ATF mission and other missions to help you do your job? Things like that are the things that you want to talk about and write about in your application. And I see a question about HHS, which I'm so happy to see here. The cost for travel and lodging, you can pretty much figure it's $2,500 a week if you're looking at costs. If you have to come across country, that's very liberal budgeting, but so it would be about 10 grand for 4 one-week sessions for our executive leaders program. And then for the 2 in-residence sessions, 5,000 for Emergence, but you wouldn't have to pay tuition. So just be aware of that.
Heather, there's another question about what is the acceptance rate for the programs? That depends on the program. For the master's program, I can tell you that we get around 200 applicants, including people who have reapplied. We can accept 32. If you do the math, that might give you an acceptance rate, but you have to go another level. The majority of our applications for the master's program come from law enforcement and fire services, fire and EMS. And we don't want to fill, although we could, we don't want to fill a cohort just with fire and law enforcement personnel. So we, again, are looking for a mixture of disciplines and levels of experience. So the acceptance rate isn't a single number. It kind of depends on what discipline you're involved in and what you have to offer to our program.
Anything to add, Cynthia, Sarah, at this point?
I actually thought that he could have said this is for the ELP before he said that, not just master. So it's the same for us.
Cynthia?
There was one question online that I was trying to type an answer to, a question about for Emergence, what do we mean when we say people who are in the first half of their career? So Intel analysts who have been working in their unit for, anywhere from 5 years to 12 years, sergeants and lieutenants in police and fire departments, people who are working in HSI or immigration services that have been doing that job for, around 5 to 12 years, frontline supervisors or not frontline supervisors. But we're looking for a classroom of folks who are grounded in their career and have a really good understanding of their mission, their organization, have an idea of how to improve it, and have the ability to do that in their organization. And that doesn't mean that they have to have control over a budget themselves, or that they have to have control over people, but that they are at a space in their organization where they can get a meeting with their leadership, where their leadership knows the value they bring to the organization and what their participation is in Emergence, and their leadership is going to listen to them pitch what they think a really positive change is in the organization. We have, and every class always has people that don't fit that time span that I just talked about. We always have people that have been in their positions for 3 years and that are, very young in their careers. And we always have a couple of people who have been in their positions for 20 years or more and bring that experience. Again, as Dr. Bellavita says about the master's program, Emergence is also a competitive application process. Write a compelling reason of why you want to be in Emergence and what you bring to the classroom, because Emergence is very much centered on students learning from each other as well.
Excellent. And I have a question here from a core employee. I'm so excited that core employees are now eligible for the master's program as well as the others. But if you get deployed, and this is for all of you, if you're in our programs and you have to miss more than a day or two of an in residence, the programs are so compact that it becomes a problem very quickly. So the faculty would have to receive your request, and then if they can't keep you up with the class, you're asked to bow out for the next available position in a cohort. And this is for the master's program. So say you have to get deployed, so you're in a cohort, then you bow out, and then you come back at the next available. And there might be a line of people waiting, so it might be a while. It's not going to be the next cohort. So we just like people to understand that. But we do work with you as best we can to keep you in the cohort that you started with. Sarah and Cynthia, do you want to talk about what happens if you have to miss in your programs?
For Emergence, it's as you discussed, Heather, we have 2 weeks in residence and we protect that. So if something came up where you had to miss a majority of that, then we would take it on a case-by-case basis and consider all the options with the intention that you would still stay engaged with CHDS if that meant moving to another cohort or whatnot. But it is imperative that the 2 weeks of in residence that you're here and engaged in that.
We're the same in ELP. It's a case-by-case basis. Luckily, this doesn't really happen very frequently, which is great. And occasionally, depending upon the reason, if you're stuck with COVID or another contagious disease, we have occasionally allowed for virtual attendance, but we are an in-residence program like all of the programs. So we really strongly try to maintain that.
And thankfully, there's no mystery to when you'll be in residence. So if you go to our website for each of the programs, you'll see the actual in residence dates. So you can really plan around it. I mean, if you have a wedding or you're expecting a baby, although we've had people have their babies in the program, if just look at ahead of time. And again, like Cynthia and Sarah mentioned, it is time management and planning ahead so that you can see what's before you and make decisions. And I have found over the years, what's really great is, people say, oh, I've been looking at this program for 5 years and I'm finally doing it. So just keep an eye out on the website. Those dates are solid and they're posted. The deadlines for the programs at this point right now are May 1 and December 1 for Emergence and the Masters, and have not yet changed, but will change soonish for the Executive Leaders Program. So the deadlines for ELP are June 15th and January 15th. So again, keep an eye out on the website for those changes.
The one thing that I'll say, Heather, because I think I saw, it's very hard for me to get all the chat questions. There's been a bunch of good ones, but I did see one that asked when they should apply, and that we are, unless I'm misstating the other programs, we're all on a rolling application basis. So once our deadline ends, you can still apply the very next day. It would just go towards the application for the next cohort. So our applications never close. They're always open, and then they just close for that cohort on the date of our application deadline.
I see a question about if you do Emergence, can you do the master's program? And also has anyone done the three of them? That's a lot of that has to do with your agency and what they'll allow for you to do. But Cynthia and Chris, would you like to talk about how that works?
Sure. So you can do both programs, not concurrently. Emergence is, you can apply to either one right off. You don't, there's no stepping stone issue here. But I can say that a lot of the students who come through Emergence really get the love for CHDS and want to learn more and want to expand their own education and their critical thinking abilities even more. And so there are several Emergence alum who do apply for the master's program. And in my time leading Emergence, I think there's one specifically I can think of that graduated Emergence within the last year, and I believe has just been accepted to master's.
Yes, two of them. I think total we've had maybe about 6 people from the Emergence program apply to the master's. Part of that is because many of the people in Emergence already have master's degrees, but also it's a lot of time to be away from work to be in school.
From the ELP perspective, we've had 35 master's students in ELP cohorts. And interestingly, we've actually had 35 total ELP cohorts throughout the genesis of the program. But I will also say that we've had several students who started in ELP and then applied to master's because, again, they, were so dedicated to Homeland Security and learning more about it that they went sort of that direction. So it can, I don't know a good word for that, but we're very welcoming across all programs.
Corey Jackson has asked about the estimated weekly time commitment for the master's program. He also apologized for if I covered this already. It's about 16 to 20 hours a week, Corey. Basically, your weekends.
Yep. I see a question from an election official, and we have had elected officials in the program. What you need to remember is you need to be at least your term needs to be within the realm of the actual program. So it needs to surpass the dates of the program, if that makes sense. And remember that you're representing that jurisdiction in the classroom. So I hope that answers your question. Let's see.
Dan had a question, another master's program question about in between the in-residence sessions, there's a distance learning component. And Dan asked, does the distance learning component consist of synchronous classes, asynchronous, or a combination of both? Yes, all three. But we try to minimize the time that you spend online during the distance part. Each of our classes are 4 credits. And 4 credits equates to 40 contact hours. And a contact hour means time that you've been around other people in the program. 32 of those 40 hours are in residence. So we basically have 8 hours that we work with during the non-residence period for your time. Sometimes that's small group work. Sometimes it might be a speaker. Other times it might be 2 or 3 iterations of the same presentation by a faculty member. But it's a blended learning program, but primarily in person.
Here's an important question about changing organizations, all right? So important to know that FEMA considers your full-time position, your eligibility. So again, local, state, tribal, territorial, federal DHS, and Title 32 National Guard are fully funded. Others have various tuition. If you change organizations within the program, as long as it's another organization that is funded, and you get a letter of recommendation, you should negotiate that before you take the position. But get a letter of recommendation from that person supporting your time away. That new organization needs to be signing that letter in order for you to stay within the program. If you are outside of the, if somehow you lose your position or somehow are not employed, unfortunately, we're not able to keep you in the program. And so that's something to really consider as you look ahead for your career as much as you can. Anything else? Is travel and lodging fully covered for Emergence for law enforcement? Yes, Jonathan, you are, as long as you are full-time local, state, tribal, territorial, or federal DHS law enforcement. And foreign language study opportunities. Unfortunately, we don't have those. This master's program is, there's no secret squirrel stuff here. It's all unclassified and there are no foreign language opportunities. All right, do you guys see any other questions you'd like to answer?
Yes, there have been 300 people. It's not really a question. 300 people on this. I'm hoping that you all consider applying to a program that is of interest to you. Rather than thinking if you're the right person or not, just go ahead and try. The worst that could happen is that you don't get accepted, and then you can ask for feedback. And back to the baseball metaphor, in the same way that professional teams try to develop the bench, we want to do that as well. Not everybody gets in the first time, obviously, but we can work with you. We have resources. We're looking for the best people in the country to apply to this program. And if you believe you have a chance to be that person, or you already are, once you look through your shyness or your modesty or whatever, give us a shot.
Yeah, imposter syndrome is real, but don't pay attention to that. Just apply to the programs. Here's a question of notification of acceptance. We get that question a lot, and it's really dependent upon the number of applications that we receive. Sometimes it takes longer than usual, but we try to get within a month and a half of the application period. So just be patient. If you don't hear from us, you can always contact me. I will let you know. There's no mystery here. We're pretty transparent. If I have the list of people who are in, I will definitely let you know. And let's see, somebody asked another question.
Yeah, there's that question on there about a maximum GS level for, I guess, federal employees is for the master's program. It depends on your agency, on your component. If you're a DHS person, you have to get approval from DHS to apply to our program, at least the master's program. Heather, is it also the same for the other two?
I'll let the program leads answer that.
Yes.
Yes.
Right. Yes, you can see there's a weighted criteria for the evaluations. You can see all of that on the website, chds.us. And there are some frequently asked questions there. The application is there. One note, if you are a DHS person, you do have an internal POC, and you can find that person and their email contacts on the website as you fill out an application. So as Dr. Bellavita said, please go to the applications, apply. A lot of what you need to know is in there. We've been doing this a while. If you have further questions, please make sure that you put your contacts in this chat, and we will put you on a list that gives information regularly. If you want a mentor, if you want to let me know, I would be happy to pair you up with that. I do see a question about who is the ELP lead. She is right here, Sarah Kay. And she can put her email in there if you have further questions.
Heather, there was a question, who is the point of contact if you apply and do not get selected?
I'd be happy to help you with that and help you with feedback for the master's program. All right, we are right at the top of the hour. If you could put in the chat, that would help us, that if you have any further questions or your contacts, but also if you found this meeting helpful and why, that would be helpful for us as we try to make this webinar. We do it twice a year. We want to make it more user-friendly. So anything you can tell us would be welcome. And we look forward to seeing you and your application on our website. So thank you for your time today, Program Lead Cynthia, Sarah, and Dr. Bellavita. And thank you for your time. And we look forward to seeing you on our website.